near Preston Highway, near Mount Washington, and now is moving now. If you're in Anderson County and Shelby County, eastern part of Shelby County, are getting the brunt of this storm, and it's still in the eastern part of Spencer County. But if you are in Jefferson County, Oldham County, Bullitt County, you are past danger, so you don't have to worry about this particular storm anymore, and there's nothing behind it. We're looking really good behind it for now. So, so right now we're looking at the danger area being off to the east of Louisville, but still watching it for you folks who I know are still getting a lot of hail and a lot of concern.
Beth, let me ask you one thing about the weather as it approaches tomorrow and Derby Day, a very special day in our community, and everybody was concerned about this. Let's remind them about your 11 o'clock forecast tonight that we talked about. How does this storm affect our weather for tomorrow, and I see it's clearing out behind, but what's likely to happen, and are these storms likely to continue and perhaps flourish again tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night?
Well, the problem is that these storms are forming along a front, and the front is pretty much a stationary front, and it's sagging pretty much just south of the Ohio River now, but it's a stationary front, and it's forecasted in the progs that we get over the computer models to pretty much stay where it is, and that's our concern about tomorrow, is that we're going to have a chance of seeing thunderstorms firing up again in the heat of the day tomorrow afternoon. As our dew points rise, as our temperature gets warm, we're going to see a chance of having more thunderstorms fire. Now, we had a very similar situation over Thunder Weekend where we had a tremendous amount of storms the night before Thunder. Remember those early morning tornadic storms? And then during Thunder Day, we had the potential for seeing the storms, but the atmosphere was pretty exhausted, and it never did get up to where it could have been to produce more storms. So we can certainly hope that happens tomorrow, but certainly can't guarantee it, because this front is forecasted to pretty much stay where it is, and that's going to give us the mechanism to fuel these storms. We're going to have the unstable atmosphere, so we'll certainly have the potential, but so this very same system is the reason that we'll have chances of thunderstorms around again tomorrow, because it's just not going anywhere. It's going to stall right in the Ohio Valley, and that's going to give us possibly some fuel for some more storms during the day tomorrow, and again even tomorrow night. So we're looking at another 24 hours of having to put up with this same system, Gary.
All right. Well, Beth, I see that Reed's walking in. I don't know if he has any new information here, but it looks like the worst of it over, at least for now, in Jefferson County, although there will still be some residual flooding. It's still time to be careful out in the southern portion of the county, because we have some hail on the roadways and on the yards and so forth. There may be some damage in the area, and also LG&E reported that 1,000 people were without power at this time, and that means there are some lines down. So there may be some lines down in your area, your streets, or if you're out and about, be very careful, especially if you're like coming home from a derby party or something. This is kind of a dangerous time in Jefferson County, because there is some residual storm damage left behind. Reed, you have something new?
Only to the extent, Gary, that the Weather Service still has not been able to confirm any touchdowns, as you might expect. But as one of the forecasters there said to me, we certainly came very close tonight. And they feel like the report in the Fern Creek area that they got, which triggered some subsequent warnings moving on into Spencer County, was probably a very accurate report. It was from one of their people. In the Camp Taylor area, one report of 7 inches of hail on the ground. Now, pile of hail up 7 inches deep, it had to be coming down very rapidly, large-sized hail. The Weather Service getting numerous reports, as we are this evening, of exactly what has taken place. Very fast-moving storm. The reason the warning was extended here in Spencer County was the main energy in the storm has kind of split in two. Storm has slowed down a little bit now, and therefore that's the reason the tornado warning for a portion of Spencer County was extended till 1 a.m. That is the very latest.
Right, and it's now pretty much in the eastern corner of Spencer County right now. So you folks in the west, it's pretty much passed through your area, according to our live Doppler, which does show exactly where the storm is. It's pretty much to the eastern part of the county, but of course people know when they're in the storm. It's not one that's a quiet one. You know if you're in it, and it's got very large hail with it. We heard Gary Gupton, if some of you weren't here earlier, Gary Gupton lives near the Fern Creek area, and said he literally, it looked like a snowstorm had hit his house. He said it was winds that were comparable to a hurricane. He said he estimated 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds, saying that he had been in a hurricane. And he said that it looked like snow on the ground, that the hail was so deep and had come down so fast that it had literally covered the ground with white.
The storm was very consistent during the late afternoon and the evening hours as it moved across Illinois, through western Kentucky and through portions of Indiana, moving 30 to 45 miles an hour. and continually we got reports of hail with this storm, and it really held together as the night hours went on.
Yeah, we got a nice little break in Crawford and Harrison County. You guys got some hail, I know, but the tornado warnings got a break. They were literally every single county up to there, and then they broke down into a severe thunderstorm, and the storm did start to weaken a little bit. You could see it start to break apart on the radar, and then it regathered its energy in Floyd County.
Right over Floyd County.
Yeah.
They moved rapidly into and through Jefferson County and really had a tremendous burst of energy at that point.
Okay.
We also have additional reports of some flooding up in the Madison, Indiana area. The Weather Service is saying that portions of Indiana up around Madison have had 1 to 2 inches of rain, causing a lot of flash flooding there.
Yeah, that's another problem with this storm because we are so saturated already, and we've had reports of Eastern Parkway and underpass that had about 2 feet of water in it. That will start to recede pretty soon after the rain stop. But if you're in an area that's getting heavy rain, do be aware that it's always secondary. You don't think about the flooding because we've got the big hail and we've got the high winds and we've got the tornadic storm, but that's also something definitely to consider because flooding can be extremely dangerous, as can all the other components of this storm. Gary, Melissa?
Thank you very much, Beth and Reed, and welcome, Reed, to this very chaotic night. Apparently what is happening now in southern Indiana and in Jefferson County is that people are getting out and they're surveying the damage. The calls that are coming into the newsroom now are telling us about all the hail and the home video that some people fortunately have gotten out and taken. We have crews in several areas, but you can imagine what it's like to try to chase ice, which is exactly what this is. But people are out there surveying the damage, and again, they're saying golf ball size hail, and it is very deep, and they're talking about damage to some vehicles. Now, as we know from storms in past years, you have to really get up on your roof sometimes to find out about that, so I'm sure a lot of that will be going on tomorrow to find out if there has been damage to roofs in the area and all of that. Your car you will be able to see quite quickly, but people in the area are out surveying the damage, and I've had people just to call and say, you know, it's quiet out there now, and it feels pretty good to be quiet. It was a very frightening storm.
Well, that's the thing. If you've had any structural damage in your area, as you know, we've taken a couple of phone calls here tonight, more than that. If you have any serious damage in your area, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call. We have crews out who are working the story right now, but obviously we can't get to every place. So if you're in an area where there is a place where there has been damage to trees, to outbuildings, to your home, please, as the young man JR called us from Okolona not long ago to tell us the windows had blown out in his house, please give us a call.
And we have a call right now from Steve Strong in Mount Washington. Steve, what happened at your place?
Well, it wasn't actually my place. I rode over to a friend's house because I knew he wasn't home, and he was in those storms last week. And evidently they got hit pretty hard again tonight because there's actual drifts of hailstones out on the side of the road. They're up against his house, and it's really just butchered up trees and stuff all up through there, and you can't even see much of the road back over off Dawson Hill and Kings Church Road.
Kings Church Road near Mount Washington. Have you ever seen anything like this before, Steve?
I haven't seen anything like those hailstones that I just saw over there, not drifted like they are. They've just washed, look like they've washed in the water and moved around and blown and drifted, and it's something I hadn't seen before.
I can't imagine.
Drifting would seem to indicate also high winds in your area too. If you know, the stones are as weighty as we remember, if they're drifting around, something was blowing them, huh?
Well, there's great big pieces of leaves and twigs and sticks and stuff that are actually stuck in his screens and stuff on the side of his house. I called him by phone and was telling him about it, and he's on his way home now. But there are people over there that lost their roofs and stuff last week, and I feel really sorry for them because they were trying to rebuild, and I know this has had to damage their places.
All right, Steve Strong calling tonight from Mount Washington.
Thank you.
Now let's go to George Sells, who is once again in the Fern Creek area, and George is live tonight. George, what can you tell us, and what damage have you found now?
Well, Gary, we're in the Glen Mary subdivision now, and in this area, hail is the big story. Take a look at this. Looks like something out of a snowstorm. Huge chunks, good size hail there. And that's not the worst of it. You can also see up the street here a very eerie fog that is still hanging over this area. That's part of what is making driving and just about everything else out here so dangerous. I'm going to walk over here and talk to Steve Vance. Steve lives here, and Steve, you got some little souvenirs of the storm I can see here.
Sure do. I see when you talk about golf ball size hail, this is truly golf ball size hail, and this has melted some. We were down in the basement, and once I realized the hail was kind of subsiding, we we came upstairs, and it really was hitting the back windows and everything really hard. Had a couple cars outside, and fortunately it looks like there's no damage there. But when I heard you guys were heading out this direction, thought we'd come out and I know Gary needs a little bit of rest tonight to get up tomorrow, so we decided to come out and lend him a hand. But
well, tell me what it was like when the storm was coming through here. What were the sounds? What did you see?
Well, first the main thing was we heard the sirens went off, and we turned the TV on, and they said that it was coming toward Fern Creek, and then the sirens went off, and we thought it possibly had passed us. However, then the sirens came back on again. When they came on the second time, we thought it was pretty serious, and we better seek shelter in the basement.
Okay, Steve Vance, thanks a lot. Kind of lucky that there was not any worse damage. You can see we're moving over here, Gary, and once again, it looks like something out of a snowstorm. You've got this big pile of hail here. I mean, this has got to be, I can't even get my hand all the way through it, but it's got to be a good 5-6 inches deep in spots out here. And bear in mind, this stuff has had some time to melt. This thing came through here with absolutely no notice whatsoever, and it's just all of a sudden hammered a lot of areas around here. Once again, the fog is a big problem. The hail, we don't know how much damage is going to show up in this subdivision. It's one of those things that people may or may not get a rude awakening when the sun comes up. Gary?
My goodness.
It is just incredible. George, don't go anywhere, because we're still amazed at the size of these hailstones. Now, we could see those in the cup, but those on the ground that you were pointing to us, what size? We know they've melted somewhat now, but still, at this hour, what size are those hailstones?
It's amazing. It really is, Melissa. I mean, you see in this business all sorts of various storms and the kind of damage they can do, but this is something that I have never seen in my life, and I think it's probably the same for a lot of people. Just an absolute shocker, really, I think, for a lot of these folks, because it was beautiful tonight. I mean, you saw us top of the 11 o'clock news down there on Central Avenue. It's a beautiful night. There's some lightning around. You know there's a storm coming, and then all of a sudden, in a period of an hour, we just got hammered.
George, any permanent damage out there in that subdivision that you can see? Broken windows or anything like that?
Well, Gary, it really is tough to tell, because you look out here, you can see it's real dark behind me. There's not a lot of street lights or anything like that here. Nothing that we have noticed as of yet, but like I said, it's one of those things that it can be downright amazing when the sun comes up how much you didn't see, and I have a feeling for these folks, the morning is going to really bring the true story of how bad or how lucky things were.
All right.